Ladies and gentlemen, it is a sad day. This is Simon coming to you, and today the verdict has come down that astrology doesn't work. And I'm very sad to say that many of us are hanging up our astrology hats, our shingles, and taking more reasonable jobs like being an accountant or a street sweeper or working for UPS. Why do I say this? Because a study has come out, and that study shows conclusively that astrology doesn't work. Is there hope? We shall find out. Anyway, I say this half seriously because over the last several thousand years, people have come out and said this stuff doesn't work. And yet astrology somehow survives. Why is that? Now, it could be humankind's need to hold on to superstition, to hold on to belief systems that provide some level of comfort. There are belief systems, even to this day, that survive that are perhaps archaic and no longer functional. But is it possible that astrology has survived because there is an element to it that does work, in fact? And even though it may not be easily quantifiable, although I have something to say about that, that it does have a gift to offer us. Let's explore this, and I'm going to take you down a little bit of a rabbit hole, and hopefully when we come out the other side, there will be a light at the end of the tunnel, and we will be ourselves a little more enlightened. So, what study am I talking about? This is now, I'm not picking on this study or sort of selecting it for any other reason except that I just came across it. And this study has the very long title, Empirical Testing of a Few Fundamental Principles of Vedic Astrology Through Comparative Analysis of Astrological Charts of Cancer Disease Persons versus Persons Who Never Had It. This is good training for doing your mantras, right? If you've been doing your mantras, you should be able to do all 9 Mahamrityunjaya mantras in one breath. Om Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanan Mrityormukshiyamamratat. Like that, 9 times on one breath. Can you do it? This is a challenge. If you can do it, then I'll show you how I do it. In one breath. It is possible. Anyhow, yes, this is a long title. Certainly not as difficult to say as doing 9 Mahamrityunjaya mantras in one breath. Let me know if you can do it. Try it. But certainly a mouthful. And what we find, and I'll take you through this. I'll give you the summarized version, okay? So we don't have to go through all 12 very, very detailed pages. The summarized version says that comparing a group of people who had cancer before age 60 with a group of people who have never had it and applying astrological rules, there was found to be no difference between the two data sets, even though they have these, to quote the study, opposing life circumstances. So, okay, well, what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's my firm belief and conviction that astrology, like all ancient traditions, should evolve with the times. Yoga, Ayurveda, even religion. We don't worship Zeus and Hera anymore. Even in the Vedic tradition, we don't worship Indra and Prajapati the way they were worshipped hundreds or thousands of years ago. Similarly, the principles of Jyotisha, of Ayurveda, must evolve with the mores and the the social conditions of our times. This is called Kala Desha Patra. Kala is the historical time in which you find yourself. Desha is the environment in which you practice, and Patra is the individual vehicle, usually the person and their capacity. So if you're predicting, if you look at a chart and you say, you will be a world famous weightlifter, and the person is, or let me say, you will be a world famous ballerina, and it is a man who is 60 years old. While he may have the combos, the patra, the vehicle is not there. So one has to tone down one's expectations according to the specific circumstances that you are predicting in. Anyway, that's a topic for another time. And another topic for another time is one in which I will go into specific studies like this one. I'm going to go back to this one in a second, but and really analyze what has been done and what has yet to be done to test astrology. But it's my belief that we, as practitioners of this art and science, have to stand up and face the constructive criticism. We have to stand up and face honest appraisals and be ready to answer the call, you know, if it's our dharma, if that is our purpose, to show that what we're doing is more than flim flam, and to be able to back it up. So of course I'm doing that and in our members group, I'm actually giving away $1,000 to anyone to whoever comes closest to picking the specific number, that number being how much money I will win or lose using astrology to predict sporting outcomes. This is a real test. It's happening right now. And if you're a member, you get to guess for free. Level 2 members get 2 guesses. Level 3 members get 3 guesses. And I'll give you $1,000. I give second place $500, third place $250. So, and I'm doing that every 3 months. And that's my little tiny little attempt to sort of put myself out there. So let's get back to this study. So I truly believe that these studies are super valuable, but they have to be done correctly. So my first issue, so again, to summarize this study, I summarized it. It said that astrology, there's no correlation. Let me get into the details. In one of my issues. One of my issues with this is that the topic is cancer. Now, cancer, I'm not a medical professional, but it's my understanding that a melanoma is very different from a sarcoma, from leukemia, right? From skin cancer, from brain cancer, breast cancer, blood cancer, bone cancer are very different things to start. So one thing that may cause, or one pill that may treat or have an effect on a certain type of cancer may not have an effect on another. Okay, that tells us they're different things. So that's a general kind of question mark right at the offset. Why didn't they focus on a specific type of cancer, like liver cancer? Because then we could focus on the specific houses and planets involved that rule the liver, and then test, do the people who have liver cancer versus those who don't have more of an affliction to, say, the houses 5 and 6, which rule the liver? Very simple. But no, we're talking about all cancer, which makes it, you might as well say aging, which people age faster than others. Or anyhow, I'm not a medical professional, so, you know, forgive me if I overstep, but that is a concern of mine. Okay, blood cancer has a specific thing. You want to look at Moon and Mars, whereas skin cancer, you want to analyze Mercury. If it's a localized cancer, like liver cancer or breast cancer, you want to analyze the houses involved. The 4th house for the breasts, the 3rd house for thyroid, and in the 5th and 6th house for liver, and so forth. Okay. Number one. Number two, what second question mark I have is they did not consult perhaps the leading Vedic medical astrologer, Dr. K.S. Charak, who is a heart surgeon at the same time as being a prolific author on Vedic astrology, specifically medical astrology. There was no reference to his work. How can you leave that out? They reference various authors who are not doctors. Okay, so that's a concern as well. But even so, I read the whole thing, and I read most of it, and the conclusion and the methodology especially. And my final concern was with the methodology, and I found the methodology to be poor. So if you put in garbage in, garbage out, the methodology used was not good. Now, it wasn't bad, it wasn't horrible, but it could certainly be improved. And I found potential instances of double positives or double negatives where things could be could show up twice. And I can show an example. And if you're one of the folks who did this study, first of all, I commend you. I truly am a fan, because this takes a lot of work, a lot of statistical research, a lot of dedication, and I honor that. I simply question, was your methodology, was the input that you put in valid? The process I honor you for, and I have no problem with, but the assumptions on which this was made, I think, are faulty. So, so one of the issues I have here is a planet in conjunction or square to Saturn, Mars, Rahu, or Ketu. Okay. But then another one is if a planet is afflicted by the 10th aspect of Saturn or the 4th aspect of Mars. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Those are also squares. So there will be a double incidence. So a planet, let's say a planet is in the 4th house from, in the 10th house from Saturn. So that is called a square. But Saturn's 10th aspect also hits that planet. So now that will be counted twice. Now, I don't know if they accounted for this or not. Okay, they may have. But right away, that causes an issue for me that wasn't explained. Anyhow, so in going through the methodology, it was very thorough, but unfortunately, I believe it was thorough in the, not thorough enough, let's say. All right. And I do believe that they should have contacted real medical doctors with astrology experience. And in their index of their reference works, it was not there. There's Mr. Agarwal. There's several journals and so forth. But no reference to, there's B.V. Raman and so forth. So anyhow, let's, on the other hand, so, well, first of all, before I go somewhere else, what do you think of this? This is certainly not as bad as some other studies. There have been other studies that outright claim, like the one by Carlson here, which is reference right here, a double-blind test of astrology. This came out in Nature magazine, and it was said to utterly disprove astrology. That was it. That was a death knell. So the way I started this video, I would have started it that way in 1985, even more dreadfully. Yet what happened? That study itself was analyzed and shown not just that it didn't disprove astrology, it actually still shows statistical correlation that proved many of the principles that they claim to disprove. We can make a whole video on that as well. And let's see, here it is. This is the disapproval of that study that showed that their methods were highly biased against astrology. And this is my issue, that you have scientists, good scientists, who do not apply the scientific method to astrology, because the scientific method is one of testing. You create a hypothesis and then you test it. And they do not test. They simply say, because it cannot work, it doesn't work. Right? Because we don't see how it could work, it doesn't work. It's ridiculous to think it could work. What's this thing called gravity? Where is it? Oh, but there are mathematical formulas to measure it. Yes, there are mathematical formulas for Jyotisha and looking at the charts. Now, it's not because of gravity that planets affect us. I don't know why the planets affect us. Or do they affect us, or are they simply cosmological markers? This is another theoretical argument that doesn't interest me at all, actually. I just want to know, does it work? Can we predict stuff using this? So let's see if there's an exit to this rabbit hole. Ladies and gentlemen, you may know that in the last couple of years, I've been researching compatibility. I've made videos on compatibility factors between couples, and sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. So I decided to run a statistical test on my software called Delano to put it through its paces. And here is a brief provisional summary. This is just the initial phase of what we have found. So first of all, we have a group of unhappy and happy couples. There are about 48 happy couples and about 40 unhappy couples. We run them against a control group of over 6,000 randomized couples. Okay. And we have found these are the initial findings. Now, I'm not publishing these results yet. We have to do our due diligence and so forth, but these are the initial results. We found that in the control group, there is a 57% compatibility. Now, in Delano, those of you who own the software, in fact, let me show you that software. There is a measure of, let's pull that up, of total compatibility. Let's pull up Delano here. All right. This is a fascinating couple, by the way, for different reasons. But let's take a look here. There is a total relationship score that gives a percentage, and a long-term happiness score. Okay. And then some other scores. This is what I'm showing you in this sheet. Let's take a look. So that total relationship score or total compatibility for the control group of 6,000 charts was 57%. For the unhappy was 56%. And for the happy was 68%. So significantly higher percentage, or I think significantly higher, maybe not high enough. Maybe I want the happy average to be in the 70 or 80 percentile. Nevertheless, it is higher. Similarly, the long-term compatibility score, as one would expect in randomized couples, it's middle to low, it's 43%. The unhappy couples are 46%, and the happy couples again are at 68%. These are percentages. Now, you might ask, well, wait a minute, why are the unhappy couples so high? Shouldn't they be lower than the average, than the control group? No. Let's see if you can guess why. Ready? The reason is because those unhappy couples were first couples. So there had to be something to connect them, to bring them together. So there is a compatibility, a compulsion to get together even in the unhappy couples. Before they were unhappy, they were happy for a moment, enough to get together. But the long-term happy couples, now what do I mean by happy? 10 years or more together and both report being happy. It's very hard to find these kinds of charts with accurate birth times, but we have accumulated over the last year or two enough of them to put 48 so far, 48 happy couples and about the same amount of unhappy. All right. And it's a small set, but the control group is large enough to give us a baseline number. So the unhappy couples have a long-term rating of 46%, the happy 68%. Let's go into the next score. We have a score called What Am I to You? This is one of the most important factors in Delano. So if we go back to Delano, you will see what am I to you? There's this percentage here. The higher the percentage, the more likely you are to bring out the best in each other. The lower the percentage, the more likely you're bring out the worst in each other. What am I to you? What do I bring out? Do I bring out scandal? Do I drive you to drinking? Or do I drive you to express your highest self and to joy and happiness and prosperity? So this couple is already divorced, so I can say it. Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck have very difficult what am I to you score, even though they love each other and you know and have had a significant relationship. In some sense, they brought out the worst in each other, and in fact, he was drinking by his own admission in that relationship, and they had a weak what am I to you score. Now for Jennifer Garner, you have to make sure, if you're going to pull this up and you have Delano, you have to make sure she is a Taurus ascendant. Okay, the way her time is given, it at 10 a.m. It gives a Gemini ascendant, but she's not a Gemini ascendant for many reasons. So we believe she's probably a Taurus ascendant. Now she could be another ascendant, and then you have to check that, but that's the one we're using. So what am I to you? Also significantly higher. Here's another measure, the durability, the toughness of your relationship. Now, this score should also be higher amongst the happy couples, and it is 83.5% versus 71%. And then the unhappy couples now are lower than the average. Why? Because they broke up. Again, a happy couple is one who's been together 10 years or more, and both parties report being happy. Now, it doesn't mean that they didn't hate each other's guts at some point in the relationship. Keep this in mind. Every couple that's been together 10 years or more has had difficulties, has probably hated each other's guts during portions of that. But it is a testament to their relationship that did not break them up. Otherwise, they'd fall into the red category. That they had strong enough compatibility to keep them together even during the good times, so that their relationship lasted 10 years or more. Does that make sense? So we have a very strict requirement for what makes a happy, quote unquote, happy couple. 10 years or more together, and both partners report being happy. Not that it was blissful the whole time, not that they haven't had drag out fights, not that they haven't split up during portions of it, but that they are still together and report being happy after 10 years. Unhappy couples may be blissful for a year or 2 years, but there comes a time within let's say 3 or 4 years max, where they begin to hate each other and they split up and they're done. Done. No more. That's an unhappy couple. Enough to get together, not enough to stay together. All right, so let's take a look at some of the other very interesting things. We find that the chemistry percentage, again, we have this in Delano, okay? We have a chemistry rating. Where is that? Oh, actually, we don't have that. Oh, Okay, I'm spilling the beans here. We're about to come out with the chemistry rating, so watch out for that in the next few weeks, next couple weeks. It rates exactly that chemistry, that spark when two people get together. Naturally, the chemistry in the happy couples is highest, 84%. The unhappy couples, it's a little bit less. Why? Because they had chemistry to get together. And in the control group, it's even less. Makes perfect sense. Sexual chemistry, highest in the happy couples. Slightly lower in the unhappy and significantly lower in the control group, which again suggests that having strong sexual, it doesn't mean having sex every day. It means sexual chemistry. A romantic aspect is important in maintaining long-term happy relationships. All right. Then, and I can go through some of these in more detail. One of the biggest ones that I like is a measure we call deal breakers and deal makers. This brings together a lot of data, and we say a good relationship should have more deal makers than deal breakers in general. And we've been proven right. The control group has more deal breakers than deal makers, 2.9 versus 2.4. The unhappy couples are even worse, 3.2 deal breakers, 2.7 deal makers. But the happy couples have far more, 3.1 versus 2 deal makers versus deal breakers. Again, strongly significant in my opinion. And one of the other things that we found is that there are certain combinations that kind of break the mold. They're the outliers that can turn an otherwise difficult relationship into a good one, or an otherwise good relationship into a difficult one. And I happen to have this one up, Laura Bush and George W. Bush. Very poor. These people are from completely different planets. Their communication and understanding is not there. Their moon scores are very low, and yet still together with kids, grown-up kids, and so forth. Why? Delano doesn't work. Astrology doesn't work. Well, for 80% of charts, we use 20% of the rules. This is the 80-20 rule. Most of the time, you can get by just simply looking at these scores and going, yeah, it's a good relationship or not. That's what I've been showing you. But 20% of the time, 2 out of 10 charts, 1 out of every 5 charts, you're going to see like this. You have to see, are there outliers that flip the script? Not even flip the script, that compensate for this. And in this case, and since you guys have watched this far, I will share what those are. For a couple, having a Moon-Mars combination is one of those outliers. Not by itself, but along with other things, it can project long-term stickiness in a relationship. Okay, so you look out for that. The other thing is K2 Venus, if they have a K2 Venus. Now, never mind the score. If K2 Venus is present, that is another outlier. Now, I've talked about in another video the 5 top combos for relationships, and I've mentioned these 2. You can check out those videos to see what the other 3 are. So if a couple has at least 2 or more of these outliers, it doesn't flip the script. They still have these problems of communication and so forth, but they're more likely to stick together and try to work them out, as this couple has. So, all right, so let's come back and let's see if we can take us out of the rabbit hole. These studies keep us honest. And I welcome them, and I welcome doing more of this in the future and showing you more statistical stuff in the future. Um, However, the studies themselves must be honest. That one by Carlson in 1985, published in the Journal of Nature, was shown that it was so strongly biased and so poorly done that in fact the result was flipped, that it actually showed that astrology does have correlations, statistical correlations, rather than not. So the studies themselves have to be honest. The scientists or the people doing them must be truly impartial, and it's difficult. We all have a horse in the race, but truly the horse in the race must be knowledge, furthering our understanding of reality. And in that in that vein, I welcome a study that shows, hey, this aspect of astrology doesn't work, because we have to then go, okay, if this doesn't work, what can we do to make it better? Or should we just leave this behind and do something else? Meaning this aspect of astrology, maybe this combination or this yoga, because all of you know that if you have the Lord of the ninth and the Lord of the 10th together in your chart, doesn't mean you're a king or a queen. But that's what it says in the text. When the ninth and the 10th Lord are together, the person will be a king. Well, no. It just means it's a combination for success. So we have to temper it in the light of our modern times. So we don't throw away that combo and say, no, it didn't work, I'm not a king. We go, okay, well, what could it mean? Or how could we fit this in with our lives? So I hope this was useful to you guys. Obviously, I do still think astrology is useful, and I aim to prove it every day. I haven't been, well, every day I work on some aspect of it. And if you want to learn more, I invite you to join me on my members channel. Now, check this out. I have videos here that you guys probably don't know about if you're only on the public channel. Stuff like show business combos. These are just the last ones I made. Coupons for 50% and 100% off of my stuff, novel nakshatra techniques, and so forth and so forth. Okay, so I will continue to make these videos for my members. I'm really pushing this idea that I want to be a more tight-knit community. And so I don't care about the subscribers. I care about the more about having a tight-knit community that is somehow invested, even if it's at $2 a month, that you're invested in your Jyotish learning. And that makes me want to give you more. Okay, so if you want to join, click join right here, and you'll get access to all the members only videos, plus a lot of other perks. So you can read about those on the membership channel. All right, guys, thank you. And we will see you in the next one. Hari Om.